Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechvalley.com, and now columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm having a lot of fun with all three assignments. My column in the Jewish Press is called Albany Beat, and we talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. So I'm having a lot of fun with all of that. And but someone who was in my column recently, we have as our guest today, Rabbi Hanoch Hecht. Welcome to the Jewish View.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I was writing about post-election stuff, and
before we get to post-election, yeah. I hear that today's show is a very, very special show. It's a big mazel tov to you. It's your 400th episode.
There you go.
And so what's the gematria for 400?
Well, I'm not a numbers guy. Okay. That's why I didn't become a CPA. Okay. But nevertheless, since the number 400, you should be blessed with much strength. And I'm hoping when you hit your 4,000th episode, you'll invite me back, well, if I do a good job today.
We'll have you back sooner than that, but yes, thank you very much for that. It was a lot of hard work to get to this point. So,
well, what did you write about in the Jewish Press about Rabbi Hecht?
Well, we talked about John Faso's campaign and the congressional campaign that was here, and why he was the chosen, why the Chabad and why other Agudas Israel backed John Faso for Congress. Well, not as a formal organization, but individuals within the organization. But
Chabad as an organization does not back any candidates, right. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe did give permission to my grandfather of Jacob J. Hecht, of blessed memory, to be involved in politics and help certain elected officials get elected, certain public servants that we see fit. John Faso, specifically in 19th District, which I've been living in for 10 years now, has been the cornerstone or the centerpiece of the entire country of a battleground for a congressional race. Thank God we were able to be helpful. There were many other Jewish organizations that were helpful, and he won by 9 points. So he did quite a big victory. And unfortunately, his candidate, who was running against him, Zephyr Teachout, was a very strong supporter of the BDS movement, and which is, in my opinion, an anti-Semitic movement. And therefore, it was so important for Jewish leaders to put their support behind John Faso. And thank God he did win. And hopefully he'll serve the community well for a very, very long time.
And I've known John Faso for probably 30 years, and I just...
you did about 2-3 shows with him?
Yeah, he's been very supportive, and he's a friend of the Jewish community.
Sure is.
Yeah. And so you mentioned about the BDS movement, anti-Semitism, but about 6 years ago, you had a personal incident in New York City regarding anti-Semitism.
Fortunately, unfortunately, I live my life as a Orthodox Jew, proud chassid, and many times that carries with it certain stigmas, and many times certain people say certain racial slurs to you. I also live in a community unfortunately, in Rhinebeck, we once had swastikas painted on certain stop signs within the village. It's a very small village, but the village came together, and it's not so much the anti-Semitism that is sparked, but what takes place afterwards. How do people come together afterwards? There's a tremendous amount of hate, unfortunately, in the world, and we have to overshower that darkness with light. We have to overshower that hate with a tremendous amount of love. And that love doesn't only come from one sect of the community, but it's the entire community coming together.
But it was interesting how this happened in Manhattan, and they called you a dirty Jew. And that's really terrible in this day and age for something like that.
You would think in Manhattan, where it's a very multicultural city, it's a little bit different. But within... what was most appalling about that story was not so much how the kid behaved, but how much the mother, standing right there, did not even have the inkling to tell her child, hey, there's certain comments that we don't say, there's certain ways we don't behave. And obviously, if the child at a young age, we all know that children many times repeat certain statements. I'm sure that the statements came from their parents, and unfortunately, if you have certain hatred, to pass that hatred on to the next generation is a terrible, terrible thing.
So this kid was about 11 or 12.
All right, sometimes a little child doesn't really learn something from the street. But once you're talking about Rhinebeck, tell us about the Jewish community in Rhinebeck.
So thank God that we've been very, very blessed. My wife and I moved to Rhinebeck exactly 10 years ago. And within that time, we had a tremendous amount of success, tremendous amount of support from the local community. It is a very, very small community. The village and the town together only has about 7,000 people. We're a one-stop sign community. But it's a very quaint town, and it's internationally known and famous for quite a few different things. We have certain tourist attractions that bring many, many people there.
And I understand the Beekman Arms, which is the center of the village, is very cooperative with you in terms of helping people when they want to stay over. And the woman who runs it is very involved or very knowledgeable about the Jewish customs and laws.
The assistant manager of Beekman Arms spent many years working for a summer camp that was a kosher summer camp. So she's very familiar with many of the laws associated with people trying to follow certain laws of Shabbos and certain laws of kashrus, and therefore they are very, very accommodating. And it's also a beautiful, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a beautiful inn, and it's one of the oldest inn in America, so it's very historic. And we wear that on our lapel proudly. That we live in an historic town. And thank God, when it came to building our shul, we built a little bit of a barn shul, a very, very eccentric but beautiful shul. It's small. And we had a barn that was 100 years old, and we disassembled the barn, and we saved all the wood. And we used all the wood, reconditioned it from the doors of the Aron Kodesh from the doors of the Ark to many of the other furnishings, such as the bima, and many of the doors were actually made from this recycled wood. And it's a very, very important concept to recycling. In general, I'm known to be a little bit of a green-thumbed individual. I compost my peels of our produce, and I have a garden, and I believe that the Eibishter, the Almighty, gave us earth, and we have to treat earth properly. And this is not about political sides of global warming or not. We have the mitzvah in the Torah when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel that they're not allowed to destroy fruit trees. The concept of Bal Tashchis, someone in any religious home grows up with. You know, the mother tells the young child, finish your plate, it's Bal Tashchis, you're not allowed to waste.
Just explain Bal Tashchis.
Bal Tashchis is the special mitzvah of not wasting. And this concept of not wasting doesn't only apply to food, but applies to the planet as well. We have to be very, very careful. And the best way to not waste is making sure that we recycle. If one is able to compost, that's a wonderful thing. And being more conscious about the earth and the environment is very, very important.
So there's a big Jewish maybe upswing in the tourist during the summer, I would assume?
Yeah, well,
your increase?
Over 50% of our community are weekenders. So the people from Manhattan or New York City that have weekend homes, but most of them are not yet religious. And of course, throughout the summer, there are many, many tourists that come through. Thank God we built a mikvah in the basement of the shul. We built one of the most beautiful mikvahs in the country. Good. And because of that, our destination became more of a destination for many religious Jews that while they're traveling, they may need to use the mikvah as well, different summer camps that are not too far.
Well, I was at your ribbon cutting, and I was very impressed with what you built and how you built it and the story behind it. And so shkoyach to you, and may you have many more decades to develop and to breathe Jewish life into the Rhinebeck community.
Amen.
And didn't Chelsea Clinton get married in?
Chelsea Clinton got married in Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
They invited you?
Thank God they did not invite me. For many reasons, I wouldn't attend. Of course, none of them politically. But
it was a mixed marriage.
It was a mixed marriage, and
her husband is Jewish. Yeah.
Our husband, that's right, and being a rabbi, unfortunately, not that God forbid we condemn anybody, but since we teach Judaism and want Judaism to be alive, intermarriage is hurting us tremendously in every community. And of course, within our congregation, we have mixed marriages, someone that may be intermarried, and we welcome them and embrace them. And nevertheless, it's still very important for us as rabbis to make our stance clear that one goes and dates, you only fall in love with someone you date. And when you go out and date, you have to date someone Jewish, so then you end up marrying someone Jewish.
Right.
And it's not, God forbid, pointing a finger at those that didn't, but for the next generation. Even if there are many, many people that I meet, one of the parents are not Jewish, and I tell the Jewish parent, the Jewish mother, and maybe it's a non-Jewish father, say, hey, tell your children, although you may have done something, and maybe you're married for 20 or 30 years, but tell your children to marry Jewish. Keep on that tradition. Study after study shows that, unfortunately, children from mixed marriages are less interested in religion, they're less interested in Yiddishkeit and Judaism, and therefore it's a tremendous problem.
Well, they're going to be confused. I mean, that's what I've always seen by different, intermarried children, couples of children, that they just don't know which way to go, so they don't go anywhere and they just fall off. They're not going to be that interested.
And this presidential election was it was the battle of the Jewish son-in-laws. Because
To
Trump's
some.
son-in-law and Hillary's son-in-law were both Jewish. So it was the battle of the Jewish son-in-laws.
Just to say that Trump's daughter is Orthodox Jewish.
Okay, yes.
So it's not an intermarriage, just for the note of it.
it's-
all right.
No, it's not, but it's still both son-in-laws were Jewish,
All
so, who identified as being Jewish, let's put it that way. So, you mentioned about going green and burying and putting your peels and everything in the ground and, you know, all that, but you also have another connection with food, and that's the Culinary Institute of America, CIA, and you have a very special connection with bringing in kosher food into, or kosher cooking into CIA, which I've been, it's a passion of mine. I mean, I would have gone to CIA had they had such a program.
Well, I would have discouraged you from going, as I discourage everybody. For those of
It's
you,
in your area, right? That's,
for those that don't know, the CIA is the Culinary Institute of America, the most premier school, and actually one of the biggest tourist attractions in Dutchess County. It attracts close to 300,000 visitors a year.
Right.
A busload of people come and take a tour of campus. There are 4 restaurants
Right.
that are open to the public, and many people come and eat and interact with the students.
well, they're making new things, that's kind of idea? They're making new
They
recipes
experiment on
or?
the tourists.
Of course, there's many elements to the school, from experimental cooking and experimental baking, but also they teach them the basic of cuisines, from cuisines to French to European to Asia's, et cetera, et cetera.
Are you talking about how to make a matzo ball? Or?
Well,
I actually don't teach
Really?
kosher cuisine or kosher delicatessens. I'm invited as a guest lecturer to different chefs, and I teach them basics of kosher. Today in the supermarket, 40% of products sold on the supermarket shelf has a kosher certification. I know you deal a lot with Kosher Fest.
Yeah.
You'll know that. And if you take out meat and dairy, the number almost doubles. And therefore, it's very, very common for a chef or a baker at some point in their career to come across kosher, especially when it comes to Pesach, Passover. How many hotels go kosher with thousands of rooms and different places? So someone may come across kosher. They should have a basic understanding why it's so important. Why are these laws in place? What is a kosher certification? These are all basic concepts as future chefs or bakers. How do they put it into place?
At your opening, ribbon cutting of the Dutchess Chabad, you had someone who understood kosher from the CIA.
That's right.
So he was from Brooklyn, I believe, but he grew up in New York City area. But you had him be there serving and making things. I was
See,
very
he
impressed by
didn't
that.
call me in advance. We have had some Orthodox kids throughout the years go to CIA. It's very, very difficult.
It is.
You can't taste your food.
Well, because the French cuisine is all
That's right, butter.
milk
Yeah.
and, butter and meat.
Butter with the meat, that's right. So it's very, very difficult. And I encourage them not to come because it's an environment that's not conducive to observing kashrus and observing
Well,
Torah.
it's like dating a non-Jewish person. you may fall in love. So, you may fall in love with the food if you happen to be forced to.
But it is a problem because there is so many beautiful restaurants in Manhattan, special restaurants, and there's Thai food and Korean. They have to learn from somewhere. Because I have actually had a few people, talk to me and said, hey, listen, I want to go this place, but they're, again, the non-kosher things, like even you're talking about milk and meat and the pig, the ham, there's so many things they have to deal with. But on the other hand, their hands are tied behind them. If they go through this Culinary Institute, they have a good job.
There's no doubt about that. It definitely gives them an advantage in going to the kosher world. You talk about kosher restaurants today. You have unbelievable kosher restaurants today in New York City. And today I think there's over 200 kosher establishments. Having said that, there are still many places you don't have a kosher Korean barbecue. And when you talk about the way the food movement is going, there are different exciting trends. Usually kosher is a little bit behind because one person has to come, know those flavors, and then try to do those flavors in a kosher way. So you may go to a kosher restaurant, maybe they'll have 1 or 2 dishes inspired from Korean barbecue, but they're not going to have a fully exclusive Korean barbecue establishment, which uses a lot of pork, which uses a lot of things that are not kosher. So of course it's challenging. Having said that, you have restaurants today that you walked into, from the ambiance to the menu to the food, it will blow your socks off. You could bring someone there that's not kosher, not Jewish, and they would not even know that they're in a kosher establishment.
So let me, this is very strange. I've asked this on different occasions. When I go to Kosher Fest, they have like Jack's sausage, but it's not really so. Or they have shrimp from Dynasty or from Asian Star, and it's basically pollock or something that's formed in the shape of a shrimp or something, or the beef. It's put in the casein and it's just stuffed in there and makes it look like it, but it's all kosher. I mean, if you're not using meat and you have a kosher sausage, so to speak, couldn't you then use milk, and couldn't you make something that would,
This is not, the question you ask is not a new question. In fact, in the Talmud, in the tractate of Chulin, there's a famous story between an Amora, a rabbi from the Talmud, having a conversation with his wife about food. And she says, hey, I'm a foodie. I want to taste these wonderful things. I want to experience umami. And he says to her that every flavor you have that exists in non-kosher, you also have a kosher way of experiencing that. So she says, I want to taste milk and meat. He says, milk and meat, the udder of a cow has the flavors of milk and meat. This is, but I want to taste pig. And he mentions a certain fish that has the flavors of pork. So, of course, the challenge is there, how do we know the exact flavors? But my point is that when it comes to kosher, there are many limitations. And there are many laws guiding us how we have to observe and eat our food, which all have spiritual reasons and specific understanding of how we're supposed to use food and look at food and the energy of food. But nevertheless, one can still experience the most delicious delicacies that they possibly can. One can experience the umami of the mouth and these different flavors. Just because they keep being kosher does not mean they can't have a wonderful experience going out and eating and enjoying themselves as well.
And one of the things that I keep asking about is coconut milk is not really milk. It's from a tree, so it's parov. I mean, it's
Technically, yeah.
Technically.
Yeah, no,
But
Today you have almond milk and
almond
rice
milk. I
milk
was
and
just gonna
soy
say
milk.
that.
Right, and people say to me in the observant Jewish community, but that would be confusing if we gave our children a meat lasagna or something with, the
artificial
with
cheese.
the artificial whatever,
Cheese.
but they would then go out into the world and see something similar and say, oh, it's okay to eat that.
I don't know, I think
and they
that-
felt it would be too confusing, so they stay away from it.
I kind of disagree with that. I think if you're educating your children, you show them the difference, then they're going to know. Children are very, very smart, and they're able to understand that. Having said that, just because milk and meat may have one flavor, if you use almond milk or soy milk or coconut milk, you may have a very, very different flavor that doesn't taste as good. Of course, on the flip side is, there are many, many companies now trying to imitate meat and chicken. There's actually a company that's imitating chicken. It's unbelievable. The owner is not even a vegan. It's not even about principle. His belief is that if he can mimic a chicken, which tastes exactly like chicken, has the same texture, which is the hardest thing to get, he's able to get McDonald's to substitute 40 or 50% of their chicken nuggets with his product. He'll be able to make a fortune. And they're saying that these products will come out. So eventually we will be able to have those textures and tastes and eat it with top of real cheese. Because many of the fake cheese, the faux cheeses, don't really have the good smell. I know there are a lot of companies on the market. You go to health food stores, they have a tremendous amount of faux cheeses and yogurts and things of the sort.
Not to belabor this anymore, but food is one of my favorite topics. But I just wanted to say that, when you have a faux, when you taste maybe something else like octopus or eel, and they say, well, what does it taste like? You say, it tastes like chicken. You always say it tastes like chicken. I know they're not kosher, but I'm just saying.
The reason why they use that is because there's a lot, when people you usually compare something which is familiar to you. So chicken is familiar to everybody, so they may say that. I don't think, at least from a texture, I've never tasted it, but feeling it and smelling it, it looks very, very different and smells very different than chicken.
No.
But nevertheless, there's certain similarities. So maybe when you're describing the dish, you may say it tastes like chicken.
Now, I got last year, or earlier this year, I should say, now you don't have TV in your house, right?
We don't have a television in our house.
But you were on a TV show.
I'm on a TV show
Now,
now.
That's right. But this you can get online at,
okay.
Also at jbiztechvalley.com, 2 YouTube channels. You can see it in different venues. So I'm just saying that you were on this program called Chopped, which is on the Food Network, I believe.
So explain it, because I don't have a TV and I don't know what the
Bill-
television show
Allen,
is.
what was his, the host?
Ted Allen.
Ted Allen.
The Food Network's most popular television show now is a show called Chopped. And I was offered to someone to nominate me to participate, and they chose me to participate because there's a shortage of time. I can't discuss all those details, but it was an unbelievable experience for me.
But it wasn't just you, it was also, I guess, a nun or a priest, or there was some other...
The show is called Leap of Faith.
Yeah.
And, it's on YouTube and on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you get a good copy for $2-3.
Okay.
And they had 4 different members: a nun, a minister, a priest, and a rabbi. So
Look
they
at
all
good
walk
joke.
into a
Beginning of a
bar.
joke.
That's right. They walk into a bar. And I competed. Thank God I did quite well. I believe I won, although I didn't leave as a champion.
You
And-
came in second.
Well, I came in, depending on how you look at the goal. My goal was to go in and make a Kiddush Hashem,
Right.
a sanctification in God's name, and show them that I can keep kosher and still compete.
Uh-huh.
And I accomplished those goals. So therefore, I feel that I did
won.
win.
You did win. Okay.
Although I didn't leave with the $10,000 check. I couldn't go after or buy a new car, but nevertheless, I do feel that I won. And it was an unbelievable experience. They were very, very accommodating to me. And it's a show that has many millions of viewers. The Food Network over the last 10 years has grown tremendously. And this is the most popular show. And the whole goal is they have competition of who can cook certain dishes with secret ingredients in a short period of time. So they're testing your culinary skills as well as dealing under pressure and all those different elements. And interesting that reality TV has some elements that are fake. The actual cooking and the cooking time is all real. So we had a tremendous experience, and I was very...
What did you make? What did you cook?
Oh, so long ago, who remembers?
Well,
You have to watch the episode.
I probably have it here if I look.
Yeah, you got to watch the episode.
He's waiting for an invitation to come over to
They
eat
cooked
over it. That's what
appetizers,
Mark is.
entrees, and desserts in a 3-rounded tournament. But was recommended for a professional chef.
Yeah, it
Right,
doesn't.
right,
The
right,
point is you have to
right.
watch. You have to go on Amazon if you want a clear one. If not, you go
Okay.
on YouTube.
Okay.
You watch the episode. The YouTube hit has like 50,000 hits on the.
He's
Okay.
waiting for an invitation for her to come over to your
Oh,
house.
you're always welcome. You come tonight for dinner.
Okay, well, when we do our Kosher Fest segments, we'll have you back so you
Well,
can
we got
sample.
to do a kosher fest up here.
That's right. I've already gone down that road. I'll tell you later. But anyway, you are also known as the 6-minute rabbi. Now, we have more than 6 minutes left. So
We
you
do
can
have
take
more than
what-
6 minutes left?
Yeah.
So you could take as much time as you want. But tell us what you
It's about 7 minutes. but
what
all
you
right.
do about as a 6-minute rabbi.
So, as a rabbi and as a Lubavitcher chassid, I find that there are many different basics of Judaism that people don't do and they're not engaged with. And one of them is the simple concept of studying Torah. It's a tenement that if one wants to be engaged with in Judaism, they have to study. As we know, study leads to observance. Well, study leads to one keeping and following the Torah and mitzvahs. So when I went to somebody and say, hey, you want to study Torah? Rabbi, got no time, I got no interest. So I thought about it for a long time, and I did some research, and I came up with the idea that our attention span, although it happens to be a new study came out because of cell phones, it's decreasing, but our attention span on one subject was about 6.5 minutes. So I figured, hey, let me offer people to come into their offices, study with them Torah for 6 minutes. Boom, in and out in a flash. They won't even know I came, and I'm able to transform their workplace, transform their week, and they'll be able to gain a little bit of knowledge.
Okay.
And thank God I had tremendous success. I go to Manhattan one day a week, and I go around Manhattan, and I do it locally in the Hudson Valley. Meet people, go from a lawyer to a doctor to many very, very busy people. And I study with them for 6 minutes, a Torah subject. We take a Torah subject of the liking, whether it's Mishnah, Talmud, Jewish philosophy, whether it's the Tanya, Hasidic thought. And we study it for 6 minutes. And you'd be surprised if you do 6 focused minutes, how much you can accomplish week after week, 52 weeks a year. And it's a great pleasure for me to do that. And I feel that we are making an impact one person at a time. And when I'm in Manhattan, I use city bikes. So I drive around from location to location on my bicycle. So we get
bicycling
exercise.
rabbi.
We get exercise. Well, Torah makes you strong.
That's right.
spiritually, and we get the physical
There's a
exercise.
story in the Talmud, Mark, about Hillel Zaken. Someone came to Hillel and he told him, what's hated to you, don't do to your friend. He gave him a half a minute, not even 6 minutes, he gave him a half a minute drasha. But that person went on to learn, became actually a great rabbi. Do you find that people, you wetted their tongue, so to speak, and saying, hey, Rabbi, I'm really... I really, like you say, a little Mishnah, I really get into it, and of course, everybody knows the Talmud you're not going to learn in 6 minutes, so you really have to develop understanding for it, longer time.
100%. We live in the age of 140 character attention span, and
He's
therefore...
referring to Twitter. Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yes, 140 characters, yes.
And therefore, one needs to begin somewhere. And the 6 minutes is only a beginning. They taste it, they see the wisdom of Torah and the godliness within Torah, and that inspires them just to start and begin a journey that has to be a long journey of wanting being engaged with Torah and Judaism. And to go back where we started, the concept of intermarriage. People only get intermarried because they're not engaged, and they don't study, and they don't care, and they don't feel they have a connection. And if we're able to find one person and light their fire and show them that the fire is burning within them. And sometimes it's 6 minute gimmick, 6 minutes in their office, able to inspire them and begin studying Torah. And this begins a journey for them. That is the entire goal.
Well, I always find also that, people have their education, maybe they went to Hebrew school, and they get really turned off. Instead of being inspired, they get turned off. And if they see real Torah, like you say, there's godliness in it, there's inspiration in it, or even deep philosophy. You have to talk about God. Who talks about God in the Hebrew school? And now they say, wow, this is something I never saw, a little mysticism. People are turned on. I thought you have to go to a guru to get mysticism. Here I can go to a rabbi and get my mysticism. It just opens their mind, like you say, even a few minutes, just saying it opens a whole vista for what they can learn.
Judaism is not the old woman with the ruler slapping you. There's fun in life to Yiddishkeit as well. There's a warmth to Judaism as well.
Now, you also are just, you come from a long heritage, a very prominent heritage. And your father, Hecht, is someone who's very well respected, to say the least, in the Chabad Jewish community.
National,
give
him a shout out, National,
you're just,
National Committee
how
for the
did that-
Furtherance of Jewish Education.
And how old are you now?
That's a very good question. Every article they write about me, they put in a different
So
age.
I'm asking
So I
you.
think I forgot how old I am.
Seriously.
I'm in my young 30s.
Your 30s, okay.
Could be like 29 like me, so
you're,
That's because you're going backwards. So I'm going to get to 29.
How did your father's aura and presence and everything that he had to that he strive to do, and to accomplish, affect you and inspire you to continue?
Well, go back one generation.
Two
for
generations.
Your,
Two generations.
I'm just saying, go beyond Shia, go more.
I am blessed to come from one of the largest rabbinical families in the world, but this is by no coincidence. When the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe visited America in 1929, he met my great-great-grandfather, who was then living in Brownsville. He used to take care of the mikvah. And he blessed him then that his grandchildren would become from the greatest of his Hasidim. And that was my grandfather and his 5 brothers, who all became rabbis. And the story is told that my grandfather once took his father to the doctor's office, and the doctor wouldn't charge him. He says, why don't you charge me? He says, well, in the medicine, we don't charge one doctor to another. He says, but I'm not a doctor. He says, yeah, but you're a rabbi, so we also don't. He says, but I'm not a rabbi. He says, a person that has 6 sons, and they're all rabbis, is more rabbi than his 6 sons. So we have that legacy that gives us drive and energy to stand on the shoulders of giants. We're midgets, and we try to stand on the shoulders of giants, fly in their wings and let them carry us to continue the goal, which is ultimately making this world a dwelling place for the Almighty.
Yeah, because your father was the rabbi to Don King, which I found was the boxing promoter, which I thought was fascinating. And you just have so many, so much to that
Draw upon.
Draw upon, yeah, thank you. It's just amazing. And I just wanted to
Thank you.
point that out before the show ended. So I just wanted to
Rabbi
thank you
Hecht,
very
we're out
much
of
for
time.
coming.
taking out of your whole time.
It feels like I was only here for 3 minutes.
know, right?
6 minutes, 6 minute rabbi. This is our 6
Time
minute
runs
Jewish
away when
view.
you're having a good time.
So main thing is they're doing great work, and and we want to just give you a blessing for even more and greater success and reaching out to more and more
Thank you.
Jews and expanding your activities.
Amen. And you should continue doing the wonderful work that you do, spreading out the light of Judaism on the waves, the radio waves and the television waves. And I hope if I did a good job, I'll know you'll invite me back one day.
Oh, you
Amen.
did
We
marvelous.
surely
Thank
did.
you. Continued success.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.